This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Greg Pickle today, and our first high school roundtable tomorrow. First high school games on Friday. This opening half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. I'll just talk about it because I'm a customer. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. They go over every vehicle on the lot, eases the buying experience, and a terrific service department. Quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. All right. Great to have you with us. We are counting down to the high school openers on Friday night and week 0 of the college football season Saturday with the big one, Iowa State, Kansas State in Dublin, which should be a good game. That's a noon game. In fact, Penn State's practice on Saturday is scheduled around that game. They're going to practice in the morning and be done before that game kicks off. They have made the transition. Training camp ended yesterday officially. Today is the first day of Nevada prep. It's also the first day they'll break down into scout team's developmental squad. So at least the initial group that receive the news that they're going to be on Scout D squad doesn't mean they can't work their way up to varsity. Can't do that. But you can do that without question. But today will be the first day where they break down into that. So that's where they are. It feels like it's been a long month in some ways, but it also feels like this camp has gone by and quickly, in fact. I talked to a couple of people who feel the same way. I mean, camp's a grind. Right? I mean, let's not pretend it's not. Camp is a grind. And now you make the transition into extra game practices and make the transition eventually into game week, which will start on Sunday. These will be the extra practices, where everybody, especially the scout team guys, get used to the routine of being on scout team. They still have a couple more things they need to do, but the camp part is over. Doing a lot of shows. Done a lot of shows this week already. I've only got one other today. It'll be tonight, and that will be for Philadelphia. And I mean, I don't know what the rest of the week holds. I'm just those. I had 5 of them scheduled over these 3 days, and
anybody ask you anything surprising yet?
No, not really. Everybody has their own way of doing things. For example, Omaha, okay, hey, we're going to do like a quick 10 or whatever, so you have to, answer those questions. That's fine. But that's it, to be honest with you. So, it's not, to me, it's not a big deal. Everything is, just kind of just go along and answer. Yeah, most, everybody wants to ask about Drew. Everyone wants to ask about the schedule. Everyone wants to ask about winning big games. Everyone wants to ask about Jim Knowles. I mean, I get the same answers every time. It's like, it's no difference, really. So, no, I haven't. There's been nothing that has surprised me.
Tape yourself once, and when they call you, just hit play and walk away.
Well, I was kidding around yesterday because I was called on this one. I was called at practice. The other night, I did Portland while in the fifth fairway on the blue course. So I stopped for about 15 minutes, and my ball just sat there. There was nobody behind me. And then Columbus I did on the ninth green. I'm not just sitting there waiting for them. I think I'll just sit by the phone and wait for them to call.
Hey, with cell phones now, you don't have to.
I know. I mean, it's like, but I do keep checking the phone to make sure, because my phone's not great at ringing. In terms of even though you can turn it on, but. So I'll check it. But, yeah. So I'll go one more tonight. There'll be more next week. Nobody's got to hold me for the rest of the week. So I look at that as a plus.
I assume you'll have a break for about 4 weeks, and then that week of the whiteout game should be another week like that.
Yeah, I would guess. I've been you get asked about the ranking. You get asked about, the expectations, how the team's handling it. Like, there's been nothing to handle. There's nothing. Seriously, there's been nothing to handle, in my opinion. They've just kind of gone along and, it's been very businesslike. There's been no, they act like a team that is businesslike, and to this point acts like there's no outside pressure. Because I think one of the worst things you can do is play as if you have something to lose. You know what I mean?
You can't be thinking about it.
Right. So I think it's one of the worst things you can do is play as if you have something to lose. I know. That's to me that's a big part of this. Because if you do that, then you become really cautious, and then you panic. If you fall behind, then you get tight. You can't do that. To me, because I've been around it, I've seen it. Let's pretend I've never seen it before. Because in football and basketball, you're like sitting there, like, what are you guys doing? Stop playing like you have something to lose. Just go play to win. That's when you know you have an issue. That's when you know you have an issue. Where you're sitting there and that happens. I've seen it in football and basketball. You're like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Going through all of it last year, the long season, making it to the semifinals, I feel like, you got to learn. The thing you take away from that is, their approach worked last year, and this is a veteran team. I can't imagine why they wouldn't think, that approach would work this year.
You'd think, but you still have to play it out.
Yeah, I don't even mean game-wise, just... it seems they were supposed to beat SMU. They were supposed to beat Boise State, and they kind of went about their business both those weeks and went out and took care of business. And I feel like, you take from that this team should probably be able to at least handle the expectations and the things surrounding the game.
Yeah, you should. That's what you hope.
Yeah.
I keep getting asked about Oregon, Washington. I mean, I keep getting asked about things like that. You're like, okay, well, we're not really there yet. Well,
I think that goes back to what you say about, they do the 1-0 thing and take it one game at a time, and fans are able to look ahead. And I think most radio people, when they're calling you, are just ignoring those first 3 weeks of the season.
Oh, sure. No, I understand. And believe me, I completely understand the calls. I mean, I do understand why I get asked the questions I get asked. I do understand that. But I have to, when I do stuff like that, I have to adjust my thinking. How about that? Right? I mean, when you're in something like that, you have to adjust your thinking.
Hey, at least you've worked ahead and you know all those teams at least.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and that really helps. I mean, and that helps. I mean, without question. But, to be honest with you, contrary to what a fan would believe, I'm not really thinking about the Ohio State game at all. Not in the least. I mean, maybe that's bad. I don't know. I don't know.
There's too much stuff to do till we get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's a big deal to sit there and try to think of and figure out. I mean, I'm still trying to get a real feel for Nevada here at some point.
Chris Murray from Nevada Sports Now will be on next week.
Good. Oh, good. Looking forward to that very much. I think that'll be great. But is it a long year? Yeah. And that's why when I talk about what I think needs to happen for a season, I talk about, and I do talk about this with everybody, the need for 50 players. Okay? And I think that's important because I'm trying to emphasize the depth part of it, because among those 50 players, some of them are going to get hurt. And, excuse me, and that's a big issue. I mean, that's a big issue. And so you have to have the depth to replace that when it happens. And I think that it's all part of trying to somehow negotiate a season. Because, I mean, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to negotiate a season, if it's possible. And that can be difficult. I mean, Penn State was a team that did not get through last year unscathed. Let's be honest about it. Penn State had a lot of injuries last year. Contrary to what people think, they had a lot of injuries last year. And they were able to get through because they had enough depth to get through. I mean, even at the end, you had people playing hurt. I mean, Abdul Carter played hurt against Notre Dame. He played, though, but he played hurt. And that's part of trying to get through. That's why you talk about the number of guys you need. And when I'm talking, again, about 50 guys, those are 50 players that, they'll rotate some guys in the first and second quarter, and that means the starters will be fresh at the end. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is 50 guys that I think will actually play some, maybe a series or whatever, in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. I don't mean mop-up time, clean-up time. You need 50 guys that can play in the fourth quarter. That's what I'm looking at. You have to be a deep enough team to do that. We know Texas has that. Ohio State last year had it. We'll find out if they've got it this year. In all likelihood, I think they do. Right? But that is, when you're trying to build a team, everything's done in stages and steps. And I've done this so long, I have a pretty good handle, especially with James, what the stages and steps happen to be. And you can't play Ohio State on August 30th. You can't play Oregon on August 30th. You play Nevada. Well, I actually got asked about the point spread when I was in Altoona. When I went down there, sitting there going, I looked at him, I said, who cares? He said, a lot of people in this room care. Because I was asked if they could beat him by 45 points. I said, I don't know. I said, I just want him to win the game and get out of there. Make sure people aren't hurt, win the game, play well enough, feel like it's a starting point, a foundation to then move forward to the next game. I said, as for the 45 points, I said, that's your problem. I said, that's why they call it gambling. You want to gamble? Go ahead, gamble.
Yeah, I hope nobody in that room has your cell phone if you would have given gambling advice and they won by 44.
Oh, I know. It's right, exactly. But I mean, I understand where that culture comes from. I understand that. But just because I understand where that comes from doesn't mean I have to buy into it. Right? Because it's just not me.
I mean, even the variables on that day you don't know. How could you answer that 3 weeks out?
Of course not.
You don't know what the weather's going to be.
I mean, there's just a bunch of I can't get into the gambling phase of it. I just can't. I can't do it. I don't get it. But that's me. I don't know.
I enjoyed it more when it was illegal.
Well, I remember in the press box. Now, this is back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm a naive kid. I'm like, okay, to me, it's all about the game. Let's play the game, win the game, Okay, I got it. Okay. And then I go by and I go into the writer's box and they have all these little sheets. I go, what's that? He says, these are the games with the point spreads. I'm like, oh. Then after a few weeks, I finally realized that they were betting on those games. It's like, this is the 80s, man. But I remember that. I remember exactly the guys who did that. But it was like, okay. Oh, man. But I was naive. I was sitting there like going, okay. Sure. Good call, Steve. No, they're actually gambling. Oh, okay.
like
maybe
calling out from the press box to somewhere, or is one of them actually in one of the a bookie?
Yes, some of them would be calling. I'm like going, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, I'll never forget being in Las Vegas to a basketball tournament. And remember Carolina went to the Super Bowl? They were really, really good. Their last regular season game was against the Giants. And I don't know how many. They must have been like a 7-point favorite or something like that, Carolina. And the Giants drove down the field, and I was sitting having lunch, which was adjacent to the sports book at the Orleans. And also, the place goes crazy. Eli Manning led a drive, and the Giants scored and sent it to overtime. They're going nuts. And then in overtime, Carolina kicked a field goal and won the game, and there wasn't a peep. Well, why? Because the field goal meant nothing to the final margin of the game. Just scoring the touchdown meant, because there's not going to be an extra point, meant the Carolina wasn't going to cover, no matter what.
They won their money.
Right. Oh, no, exactly right. Exactly right. They won their money. Right? That's exactly what it meant.
I would like to do a Sunday afternoon or a first-round NCAA tournament at least once in a sports book. Not to play, just to watch.
Sure. Yeah. Crazy. Yep. But that's like, I got asked that question, and when I made the comment, we said, well, a lot of people in this room care about it. I said, well, I can tell you right now, there's one person sitting up front that doesn't care at all about it. I said, it's all about winning the game. That's all I care about. In fact, I'll retell a story I've told before about Penn State, Michigan years ago in gambling.
Nothing. Nada. Zilch. That's what you'll pay this summer to drive a brand new Kia from Sunbury Motors Kia.
Wanna see ya in a Kia. Sunbury Motors Kia.
That's right. Get 0% APR financing for 48 months on 2025 Kia Sportages, Kia's most popular model. Plus, get 0.9% APR financing for 48 months on 2025 all-wheel drive Kia Sportage hybrids. They get up to 38 mpg. SMC also has 1.9% APR financing for 48 months on the all-wheel drive, brand new, refresh-styled 2026 Kia Sportage LX, starting at just over $32,000. Remember, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Nothing, nada, zilch. With as low as 0% APR financing at Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip at Hummel's Wharf and at sunburymotorskia.com.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right. Greg Pickle coming up. High School Roundtable tomorrow. Half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV, Medicare products. And the bottom line is you want to be with somebody that cares about your needs, so you're fully insured. They care enough about you where they want to make sure they save you money because customer service means everything to them. Well, that's Purdy Insurance. Now, I mentioned about going over to Sunbury Motors. Well, I turned to Purdy Insurance when I had insurance needs. Doesn't matter that I live here in State College. I turn to them because I feel they're the best. All at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. We were talking about gambling before. As Suit the Greek sits in the corner office. So years ago, this may have been 2008. I think it was 2008. Penn State's playing Michigan in Beaver Stadium. And Penn State is blowing Michigan out. I mean, they're blowing them out. So, in the, it's got to be the fourth quarter, they put together this drive. Penn State's going downfield, crowd's going crazy, going downfield, crowd's going crazy. Finally, the drive stalls, and Kevin Kelly comes out to kick a field goal. And the field goal makes it, I think, a 22-point game. And the crowd does nothing. So we went to a break. I looked over at Jack. I says, now they said they're up, more than 3 touchdowns. I said, you think there'd be a little more juice in here? Jack looks at me and says, Steve, the line's 23. I'm like, oh, jeez. You got to be kidding me. So I said, looked over, I said, this is where we are? He goes, yep. So the next series, Penn State then gets the ball back, and they dumped off a pass to Stephon Green. I think it was Pat Devlin that threw it. Dumps off a pass to Stephon Green. He goes like 81 yards for a touchdown. The place going insane. Hey, it's a big play. It's 81 yards, whole thing. But it put them over the 23 number, and obviously you had, of the 110,000 people there, it seems like 80,000 of them had the over. It's like, okay. Oh, goodness gracious.
Little did you know where it was going.
Oh, man. And look, I've done a lot of shows leading up to the New Jersey case about, look, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So while I may have been early in my career naive about it, later in my career when it came time to really talk about it, that it's going to be legalized, I talked about it. Oh, man.
I did read the end of last week that at some point this week there's supposed to be indictments coming down from the Eastern District, I think, in federal court over the Malik Beasley and Jonte Porter stuff. That there's that they've been investigating since this one happened, and there's so I don't know if there's more athletes going to get arrested, but I guess there's more people involved, and it's a nationwide ring apparently. So that's fun.
You do worry about that. The reality is there really have been relatively few of these cases since it all became legal. Just like I think you and I reviewed in Great Britain in soccer. Remember we talked earlier how many cases have there really been? And they really highlighted only, 9-10 cases all these years, and they've had sportsbook forever. Ladbrokes and things like that. I mean, they've had it forever. They've had very, very, in reality, very few scandals like that involving athletes. I think when you look at this, I think it's the same thing. I think in this country, it's a big deal when it happens because it doesn't happen that often. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the Guardians pitchers because nothing has been settled yet on Ortiz or on Clase. Nothing's been settled. But
they keep talking around it when they talk about this case. I think these pitching cases are involved in this too, but they kind of talk around it. So I'm not real sure if it's all intertwined, if it's all one big ring.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's something we have to find out. It's something I pointed out to you about the Alabama baseball coach.
Yeah.
Where whatever action there was took place in Cincinnati for a baseball game in the SEC that was taking place. I can't remember if it was in Baton Rouge or in Tuscaloosa. I can't remember where it took place. But the fact that they were able to tie that together does tell me how diligent they are in the industry about it.
Yeah.
I think that's a hard one to find, don't you think?
Well, I think it also helps that guy that was placing the bets was blowing off while he was placing the bets, too. I think that's a little harder to prove if he's not, I'm doing this for the Alabama coach while he's placing the bet. But
sure.
It is impressive that and I don't think they would have let them do it if they wouldn't be diligent in enforcing some of these laws with the professional athletes. And I think it also helps that, until you get into the lower part of the roster, it's going to take a lot of money or get one of these guys into a lot of debt before you're going to be able to turn a professional athlete these days.
Yeah, because when I talk about, and I've talked about this 1,000 times, but when I talked about the fixed game that Penn State basketball was involved in 1995, it was the second of 3 that the group had bet on. So it didn't trigger, it may have triggered some interest, but when they then went for the big score in the Michigan game, the one after, it was the size of the score they were trying to get that triggered authorities and got them looking at Kevin Pendergast and others about what happened. The first 2, Wisconsin, it triggered something a little bit. Penn State maybe triggered a little bit more, but then the big money was on that Michigan game. It was going to be the big score, and that's what triggered the authorities on it. So if you're going for the big score, it is going to trigger more interest.
And honestly, I think the bigger issue is going to be is not turning somebody or getting somebody to throw games. It's these college kids who aren't supposed to be betting on stuff, using their phones to bet on stuff and then getting caught, which has been the majority of the college stuff. And
the college stuff, like when I've talked to my class, when I used to teach this thing, notice how relaxed I am now. When I used to teach this thing, I would ask questions in class because I wanted to learn from them. In other words, I don't want to sit there. You know how I've always used the expression management by walking around, right? Well, that's management by walking around. In other words, talk to people that are 19 to 23 and find out what they're thinking and why they're thinking it. So when I've asked them about gambling, I usually have minimum 2/3 of the class say they've gambled, minimum. And then I'll ask, I said, if you don't mind me asking, what size bets are we talking about? And a lot of the bets that they are talking about, usually, like, I'd hear like 800. In other words, these, that they're not out there betting $10,000. Okay? But, I'd hear 800 here, maybe 1,200 there, which I thought was, when I heard it, I went, well, for a college kid, that's a lot of money. Hey, maybe I'm missing something. But, those are the numbers they were talking about. I rarely heard of anybody in my class talk about putting, I think 1,500 was the biggest number I heard. How about that?
Now, see, I hear that, and that's a college class. That worries me a little bit because where's a college kid getting that kind of money unless he's a good gambler?
Like, that's my question.
Yeah.
Like, where are you getting that money from? But I didn't ask that question because that's none of my business. I was stretching it just enough, getting them to talk about what they were doing. With the idea of all I was doing was gathering information, so I'm learning something. So when I do a show like this, you and I sitting here talking about it, at least I know, like firsthand, at least with this group, I can relate to everybody what they're saying.
It was not for your side loan shark business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I had the same question you had, but I didn't ask it because it's none of my business. Are they getting the money from a job? Could be. Are they getting the money from home? Could be. Are they getting the money because they won? Could be.
I bet if it's coming from home, Mom and Dad wouldn't be happy that that's where most of that was going.
Well, that's why they're already building the casino over at the Nittany Mall right now. It's one of the mini casinos.
Okay.
And it's going to have sportsbook in it. And I've had people say to me, well, boy, a casino in a college town, what could possibly go wrong? And I looked at him, I said, are you out of your minds? I said, do you know how the real world works? I said, these kids are using their phones to do that. They're not going to a casino.
I was going to say, they're carrying their casino in their pockets.
Yes. They are not guys that, now maybe they might want to go over there for a night and like play roulette, blackjack, something like that. Who knows? But when it comes to the sports book part of it, yeah, that's why if you ever go to a casino, what area has the fewest people in it? Sportsbook. And some of the people may go over to sportsbook because they've got every game on TV, so maybe they'll go over and look at that. But they're using their phones to place these bets. They aren't placing these bets at sportsbook. I mean, let's go back to the pros for a minute. Remember, they were talking about the violations of the Detroit Lion players. You're not allowed, for example, in the NFL, to make a bet on another sport in the facility. So a couple of the Detroit Lions got in trouble because they made the bet in the parking lot. But in making the bet in the parking lot, whose Wi-Fi were they using? The facility. That's where they got in trouble. You know what I mean? They weren't actually in the facility. They were making bets, which they're allowed to do, on other sports, which they're allowed to do. But because they did it in the parking lot, they were using the Detroit Lions Wi-Fi.
That and you can never turn the location off in your phone anyway.
Right. So I said, you couldn't have gone to a 7-Eleven. I mean, just just wait 5 more minutes. But they probably didn't think about that. They probably thought that once they were out of the building, they were then using their data. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, bottom line is, that's difficult to prove, but in other words, instead of making it in the locker room, I made the bet in the parking lot. Okay. All right.
Hey, I mean, Little League this week had to come out and say, please don't bet on the Little League World Series.
I know.
It didn't stop anybody, but they did at least ask them to.
I know. It is... it's amazing. And like I said, when I was in Altoona last week, do you think that can... Well, I don't even know. What is the number? They said it was 40-something. Is it 45, 45 and a half, something like that? Because I don't know. I mean, I'm so bad, I just don't care. So when people ask me these things, I sit there going, I don't know. But, they said, do you think they can cover that? I'm looking over like, I don't care. I said, I just want them to win the game, not get anybody hurt, to have a starting point. I said, those are my goals.
It's currently 45 and a half.
45 and a half. I'm like, yeah, wait. Why would you ask me that question?
I wouldn't want to deal with that big of a line with anybody.
I don't even want to deal with it, period.
Well, you can win by 6 touchdowns and still not cover.
Right, I know. That's just, I sit there and go, no, I don't think so.
I'm also not sure I'm prepared for a week of winning by 42 points and it's not enough.
Right. I mean, but see, this is where I think it's, as we continue to move forward with sports, like a show like this or a comment section or any kind of social media, I think you're going to have people that are going to have extreme takes, or they're going to be really, they'll go after players because of the gambling part, right? In other words, they didn't cover, and it's your fault, and you're going to be the scourge of the earth. Okay? And that's, you're going to get extreme opinions put out online about individuals, and part of the reason will be the gambling part of it. because you didn't do enough for them to win money. Well, gambling is what it is. It is not the quarterback's fault. It's not the point guard's fault that you didn't win. It's your fault. You bet it. I know it sounds cruel, doesn't it?
And logical.
Yes, but it still sounds cruel. He's so cold. I lost my money. Well, that happens to be your fault. It's not their fault. It's your fault.
They don't call it gambling because you win all the time.
Check the corner office. Why do you think he's still there? Why do you think he's still there?
I was going to say he doesn't wear enough diamonds to be a winning gambler.
No, he does not. He does not. Crazy. All right. There you are. But Greg, is Greg 205?
Greg is 205.
205. Good. Now, again, I think the opinions are going to become more extreme. There are more shows than ever when it comes to gambling. But I also find it interesting that a lot of people, like, it's like mini gambling and it's like no big deal whatsoever. But fantasy football, people love it. Right? And it sounds like it's fun. I haven't even remotely thought about trying it. But, yeah, it sounds fun. That's me. All right. Take a break. Brought to you by Purdy Insurance on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.